Habituation just means simply becoming used to something. It's just a scientific term for how animals become desensitized to things that they're normally scared of. And some things are very difficult to habituate to, such as clippers, for example, or injections sometimes for some needle-phobic horses. And I do a lot of work in teaching this in vet schools all around the world, and it really helps vets learn things that they'd never learned in vet school. So this is not only new for Pony Club, it's actually new in the veterinary world, which is surprising. Very few vet schools, certainly it's beginning now, but very few taught about learning theory and about the use of desensitization techniques, which are so valuable. So for example, systematic desensitization, which is the first one, is just gradually bringing whatever the horse is scared of closer to him, or bringing the horse closer to the thing, taking your time. It makes sense to really take your time. There's a study that showed that it takes 13 seconds for horses on average when there's something that's not moving, like a flower pot that they're nervous of, and you stand there for 13 seconds, and after 13 seconds, high levels of arousal start to transform into investigative behaviour. He wants to now look at it because it didn't attack him, and it really isn't that bad. Taking your time. Now, I know I'm not always... I'm talking to the converted here because so many of you are about that. We've got to teach kids to take time in a very, very rushed world of this millennium as well. Counter-conditioning is just transforming something that he thought was scary into a signal for something good. So you can easily teach horses that whenever you turn the clippers on, give him food. We do this for elephants, and now with big male elephants that normally we would tie their leg, or they would tie their legs and their tusk and their back legs and their body to a crush, so they can touch their eyes to give them ointment on their eyes for treatment with the eyes. We can do it through counter conditioning in less than 15 minutes, and it's really handy to teach them because forever after it's easy to deal with. The animal starts to see the ointment because he gets a food reward from the ointment or the thing touching his eye. He starts to look forward to that. It becomes not a problem. And it's really useful with horses. I've done it many times in demonstrations. We can do this for various things that he's afraid of: clippers, injections, drenching, eye treatments, rectal treatments, whatever. Overshadowing is when two things occur at the same time. If he's scared of clippers, for example, having the clippers at a certain distance away from him and then making sure he's learned to step back and forward from the lead rein really well. So that you go, just touch the lead rein for backwards and he steps back beautifully and forward, you've got control. Now bring the clippers to a certain level where he starts to go, uh-oh, here's the clippers, and immediately ask him to step back, and he won't because he's doing clippers. And you make him step back. And when you make him step back by just increasing the pressure and forward and back a few times, it gets lighter and lighter, and at that moment you've actually overshadowed the nasty effect of the clippers. So, and then you bring the clippers closer again. It's amazing how it works. And I've had so many vets that have stood there with their hands on their hips going, oh yeah, let's see what this wacky guy is going to tell us about. But it actually is true, and it's used in human psychotherapy as well for things that people are afraid of. Approach conditioning is really just a fun thing. If the horse is afraid of motorbikes, chase them. I knew that with kangaroos. My horses were never afraid of kangaroos, because as soon as we got home from school, that's all we did. When I went to Pony Club on King Island, that's why I love Pony Club so much. That's all we did, pretty much. As we got on our horses, we had a bit of a gear check. We jumped a few jumps, and then we went off chasing kangaroos back behind the race course. But it's really fun, and the horses are a bit nervous about kangaroos leaping out of bushes, soon became quite confident because it meant you were going after them. There's ways of doing it too. If you chase a motorbike, and then you stop before the motorbike or the quad bike stops, or the bobcat, whatever you're chasing, you stop first, and then it stops, and then it goes, and then you go. So if you keep following that strategy, they soon want to go forward, and that's how I ended up getting all my work with the Belgian mounted police, which is the biggest mounted police unit in Europe, by just doing that and one other bit of work with the horse that was aggressive. It really is interesting how they soon want to sniff that bobcat. Stimulus blending is just using something that he already knows, like, for example, a hose. You're hosing his body, and while you're hosing him, you could spray him with an aerosol. that you couldn't before. Then you start to decrease the hosing, increase the aerosol. Response prevention is just really where you hold him still to make him get used to something like the old-fashioned bagging. It works, but you've got to make sure, A, he doesn't get too highly aroused and get dangerous, and B, if he gets to beyond a certain level of arousal, you're going to be doing more damage than good. So you're best off to work in low arousal situations. All of it's about being progressive and gradual, and you can blend all of these techniques. They're worth thinking about. Classical conditioning, easy. It's just really, as I mentioned, that something predicts something else. So in other words, the light aid, when you squeeze a light aid, that means stronger pressure's coming, so he soon learns to stop from the light aid. And the light aid soon makes him calm because he's forgotten all about the threat of pressure. He just operates from the light aid purely by habit. That's our job, is to teach kids to teach horses to have good habits and to teach kids good habits. So the things like the seat and the position, when we walk beside the horse in leading, all those things can be learned by classical conditioning. The voice, that's also classical conditioning. Anything that's normally unrelated to the previous response can be learned by classical conditioning if you put it first. So for example, if the dog comes out of the dam and you know he's going to shake because he's been swimming, if you say shake before he shakes, soon the words start to make him shake. You just got to be consistent. And I had a meeting yesterday, some of you know Steve Jeffries from New South Wales, really great. And he and I were talking a lot about the importance of just teaching people to be consistent. Just be consistent. Okay. Shaping. Now, remember that word about progressive building of behaviours from one thing to another? So if we look at how we might build behaviours, first of all, we've got to think, we've got to make it really obvious to the animal. Like the next step's got to be obvious. So if you want to pick up his leg and fling his foot out, you've got to somehow make the next step obvious. We can't just expect him to do the whole thing at once. And often we are in too much of a hurry. So we build it by, maybe get him to lift his leg just off the ground an inch or a centimetre and rewarding that. But then we never go backwards in shaping. That's one of the rules. We never reward a worse attempt. We always reward better. So he starts to know the direction we're going. Also, it's important that we just recognise that he's very good at contextual learning, unlike us. We're more generalising. He's very good at saying, this is what I do in this place, and then we gradually change the places where he learns it, where he does it. So that means we've got to, in the beginning, train in the same way, in the same place, keep all the variables as much the same as we have in the past. Looking at our scale, you can see I've got some type in red and some in black. The red bits are the bits in the middle which is about self-carriage. Now this is the equitation science training scale. It's really similar to the German one, only a little bit more simple, and it applies to all training, whether you're loading him in a trailer or teaching him to go into a water jump. And first of all, you reward a basic attempt by release of pressure, good boy, scratch. Then obedience means that he does whatever you asked him to do immediately from a light aid. So you say, squeeze, he went straight away, good boy, well done. Or you go, squeeze, stop, he stopped, good boy, well done. Or you go, turn, whereas before he was falling out and drifting to the right when you asked him to turn left. You can't reward that. But as soon as he goes to left, you go, good boy, soften pressure, give him a scratch. Rhythm means he keeps doing what you asked him to do. Now, this is the old idea of rhythm. This is from the great masters, going back to the Renaissance period. Even Grazzoni, the old Italian trainer, one of the earliest ones, he talked about the importance of keep on doing it. Keep going, the keep going signal. In other words, that's our seat. We ride the horse, we squeeze him, he goes, we shouldn't keep kicking, we move our seat. You know that? That's the advantage and the value of good seat training and good riding tuition. This now means, I know we think of it in terms of a straight body, but what we've got to think of is that when a horse is crooked, he's either drifting or attempting to drift, but we might be stopping him by having one rein or one leg tighter. but he's still attempting to drift because a crooked horse doesn't go where you point him. He's looking that way, but his shoulders are going that way, and he's actually going that way. And so straightness is very much about getting him on your line. When you get him on your line, his body tends to become straight. And any little bits that aren't, we can attend to that as well. And then contact. So we're going through this. We're training the young horse. We only really need to do these bits for the little kids, teaching their ponies to go where they point them. But then as they get older, we start to look at outline. We want the horse on the bit and round, and that's what this bit is. And this includes all the elements of that, those things in dressage or reining or any other sport that we want to achieve. Change the body outline, the head and neck position. And it goes all the way through to collection if we're training dressage. And proof is a word, it's the final part, and it just means whatever you've trained him to do at home, he'll do it elsewhere. And dog trainers use that word too, because when you first train the horse, when you break them in, as I know, being a professional breaker for 12 years, where it was my sole income, I know that if you think the horse is well broken in, he's only been in your indoor arena or outdoor arena in a narrow environment, you take him to the show, he ain't broken in. Well, he is a bit, but the wheels fall off a bit. They nearly always fall off, interestingly enough, at obedience level. He's heavy to go and stop, which is quite dangerous. But we put the wheels back on in these new environments and we take him to places that gradually differ from the original environment. Like we don't suddenly change it. Now this is just all common sense. I mean, probably I should have called this common sense. Our basic training is really where we teach the horse in the earliest parts, go, turn the hind legs, turn the forelegs and stop. And within the go and stop, we teach him also up the gate faster, longer, and from the stop button, down the gate slower, shorter. And from the turns, we have two reins. If our hands move slightly sideways, which makes a bit of sense because if they come back, then that's similar to slowing. And it's not different enough from the horse's point of view. Equitation scientists began with, first of all, when I first started to think about this with my PhD, I was thinking, how do we make it really obvious to the horse? Maybe if we made things obvious, we would have less behaviour problems, and that's what I found.